Mubarak for you is my prayer. Mubarak for you is my prayer. May you keep ascending success, stay.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. At the beginning of every Bayan, we give you a blessing of reciting Durood Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala is reported to have said that recitation of salat upon me is nur on the bridge of Sirat. Allahu Akbar. And whoever recites salat, I Durood Pak upon me 80 times on Friday, his sins of 80 years will be forgiven. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Try and make a habit of reciting Durood Pak on a daily basis, but at least on the Friday, recite at least 80 Durood Pak with the intention for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jalla and the hope that our sins are forgiven. Viewers of Madani Channel, we have been commanded to consume halal and to avoid haram in many places in the Holy Quran, and blessed are these. And inshallah today, in today's Bayan, we'll have the privilege of listening about the virtues of consuming halal and the advantages or the disadvantages rather of consuming haram. Viewers of Madani Channel, it's been stated that the leader of millions of Hanfis, Sayyidina Imam Hazm Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi ta'ala, was engaged in trade to earn a halal livelihood. He was a prominent cloth trader and he would follow Islamic principles strictly. He even as a trader would do good to Muslims and do them favors. Sayyidina Hafs bin Abdul Rahman rahmatullahi ta'ala has stated that Sayyidina Imam Hazm Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi ta'ala would do trade with me, and while sending me goods he would say to me, "O Hafs, such and such a cloth has some defect in it, and mention it to the buyer when you sell it." And once Sayyidina Hafs rahmatullahi ta'ala sold the goods of the trade, but forgot to tell about the defect when selling it. When Sayyidina Imam Azam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi ta'ala learnt about this, he gave the entire amount of the cloth in sadaqah as charity. Allahu Akbar. And from this we can see, viewers of Madani Channel, that how careful and cautious Imam Azam rahmatullahi ta'ala was about earning a halal and livelihood and refraining from the most of haram and doubtful things. Undoubtedly, he knew that haram and doubtful things bring no blessings at all, whereas blessings lie in completely in halal and pure things. Perhaps for this reason, he did not like to keep the earnings from the sold cloth and donated all of them in the path of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Viewers of Madani Channel, whenever we are selling anything, do we tell people the defects? Do we hide the defects? Do we stand in front of the defects? If we're selling cloth, do we hold the piece of cloth that's got the defect in it so that people cannot see it? Do we hide all of these things? And then later on when the person finds out about it, because ultimately they will find out about it. If you're selling something and there's a defect in it, there's a defect in the cloth you're selling, a defect in the car that you're selling, a defect in anything that you are selling, and when they later find out about it, Allahu Akbar, what happens to your income then? That you have deceived someone and created that income? Allahu Akbar. Mentioning the excellence of halal income, he said that pious predecessors have said that when a Muslim eats the first morsel of halal food, his previous sins are forgiven. And the person who stands at a place of disgrace in search of halal sustenance, his sins fall like the leaves of a tree. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi ta'ala, what he's saying here is that if a person stands in a place of disgrace, a place where people will look down and say, why is he working there? It's a place that's it's an unclean place. It's a place, but even if it's an unclean place, physically unclean, but Allah, as long as the income is halal, if the income is halal and he's staying there in a place of disgrace, a place where people will look down to him, where people will say to him that you're not working in a very good place, but he's doing it with the intention of creating a halal income for his family and for himself, then he has said that his sins will fall like the leaves of a tree. So it's very important, viewers of Madani Channel, to earn pure and a halal livelihood. And we can realize this by pondering over the fact that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given us clear commandments in the Holy Quran about consuming a halal and pure sustenance. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayat number 88, eat from the sustenance which Allah Azza wa Jalla has given to you, the lawful and the pure, and fear Allah in whom you believe. Allahu Akbar. In another ayat in Surah Baqarah, part 2, ayat 168, Allah Azza wa Jal says, O mankind, eat from what is lawful and pure in the earth, and do not follow the footsteps of the devil. Undoubtedly, he is your open enemy. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, it is stated in Tafsir Siratul Jinan with regards to this, that halal and pure means that thing which is halal itself, such as goat, meat, vegetables and lentils, etc., and which are obtained through permissible means. That is, it should not be obtained by means of theft, bribery, robbery, etc. And viewers of Madani Channel, today we try and make sure that we try to eat halal. We try to make sure that the meat that we're getting is halal, that the chicken that we're getting is halal. We'll when we're buying some products, we'll check the biscuits and make sure that it's suitable as a halal product. But do we ever ponder over the fact that is our income halal? Is the money that we have used to buy them goods, are they halal? Have we ever checked that our income, is it coming from a halal source? You may think, well, I'm working hard, I'm making money, but is it halal? Is your income halal? And viewers of Madani Channel, I recommend to each and every one of you to please ponder for a moment and phone up the scholars, phone up a reputable scholar, phone up Darul Iftar and say, look, this is my business. This is what I'm doing. Can you please confirm to me that this is a halal source of income? And probably 99 times out of 100 it will be. But viewers of Madani, just for that peace of mind, that yes, my income is halal. And I pray that we're all having a halal income. But if, for whatever reason, when you phone up the scholars and they explain to you that your income is a haram, then viewers of Madani Channel, you need to change. You need to change your source of income as soon as possible, because this halal income, right, is making that sustenance for your family haram as well. This haram income, is making your sustenance for your family haram as well. Allah Azza wa Jal has said in the Quran, eat and drink with pleasure, the reward of what you have said ahead in the past days. And whoever does not refrain from consuming haram will eat hot and bitter tahur, a fruit, after remaining hungry for a long time. It will be very bad and harmful food, which will break the heart into pieces and rip the liver and tear the body, causing unimaginably severe pain. Viewers of Madani Channel, we can see from this that haram food brings about many evils, and the halal food brings about great blessings. The Muslim who earns a halal sustenance and then feeds halal to his family leads a peaceful and a prosperous life. Those who earn and eat halal attain a special status amongst people. Those who earn and eat halal see the blessings in their business. And sins of the one who earns and eats halal are forgiven, and the du'as are answered. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, who doesn't want these blessings? Who doesn't want our du'as answered? Who doesn't want to be, have this pure income and this peace of mind? And viewers of Madani Channel, we just need to reflect. We need to think, and we need to ask the scholars to make sure, just sit down and ponder. And with everything else, we check things, we make sure that we're on the right path, we make sure that we're buying the right thing, but have we ever sat down and checked that our source of income is from halal means? The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with regards to this, has said that whoever eats halal for 40 days, whoever eats halal for 40 days, Allah Azza wa Jal will illuminate his heart and will make the springs of wisdom flow out of his tongue. Allahu Akbar. He will speak words of wisdom, and Allah Azza wa Jal will guide him in the world and the hereafter. Allahu Akbar. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever earns halal wealth and then consumes it himself, or wears clothes obtained from those earnings, and besides himself feeds other people, such as his family and other people, and makes them wear clothes from halal earnings, then this deed of his is a blessing and a purity for him. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was stated that one day the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting with his blessed companions, and a young man passed by. When the blessed companions saw the young man who was strong, they said, would that he could spend his youthfulness and power in the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. Upon this, the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if this person has come out to search for sustenance for his small children, so he is in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. And if this person has come out to search for sustenance for his old parents, so even then, he's in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. And if he has come out to search for sustenance, for protecting himself from begging people or from consuming haram, even then, he's in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. However, if he has come out to show off and to have pride, then he is in the way of shaitan. Views of Madani Channel, just to pause for a second there, a lot of people, when they hear these kind of hadiths, they say, well, I'm earning a halal income, I'm in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal, then you're inviting us to the ijtimas, you're inviting us to the masjid, but I'm in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. Yes, you are in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal if you are earning a halal income, but it's still obligatory upon you. It's still obligatory upon you to pray your namaz 5 times a day. It's still obligatory upon you to fast during the month of Ramadan. It's still obligatory upon you to pay your zakat. It's still obligatory upon you, if Hajj becomes farz upon you, to perform that Hajj. So yes, if you are, and I pray that all of us are in the path of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and we're earning a halal income so that our families can be provided for, our parents can be provided for, our relatives can be provided for. And we're providing this halal income so we can stay away from haram if we're doing this. But at the same time, viewers of Madani Channel, all of these things that I mentioned before, they are still obligatory upon us, and they should not divert us from that we are doing this now, we don't have to do that. Yes, you still have to do this. You still have to pray your namaz 5 times a day. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Sayyidina Sa'ad radiallahu ta'ala humbly said to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, make dua that Allah Azza wa Jal answers my duas. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, purify your food and your duas will be answered. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, we can hear from this that halal food is full of blessings. By virtue of eating halal food, one's heart is filled with nur. By virtue of eating halal food, one speaks words of wisdom. We have also learned that whoever goes out in search of sustenance for his wife, children and all parents is in the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. And just ponder, viewers of Madani Channel, how great the virtues are of the blessings a person receives by earning and eating halal. But unfortunately, viewers of Madani Channel, some people are under the influence of nafs and shaitan, and they use haram means to generate this income, and they think to themselves that we cannot manage any other way without, unless we do this, unless we do that, unless we do this fiddle or we do that fiddle, we cannot survive, we cannot maintain our family, I cannot pay the debt, I cannot pay the bills, I cannot buy the food unless I do this. And I remember once we were on the Madani Qafla, viewers of Madani Channel, on this Madani Qafla there was these new brothers and they never travelled before. And I remember during the period of Waqfa Haram, where you have a resting period, they were sitting amongst themselves, and they were all taxi drivers. And they were sitting amongst themselves trying to come to some sort of an agreement of how much they could fiddle people and get away with it. And they wanted to have like a uniform agreement that they would all do this. And then I heard it and I spoke to them. I said, look, what are you doing is haram. What are you doing is haram. And they said, brother, we can't survive otherwise. We can't survive otherwise. And I said to them, is it true that every single person is fiddling the system? Every single person is fiddling the system. All the people that are fiddling the system, they are the only ones that are surviving. All the other people are dying? No, this is not the case. Put your trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. Earn a halal income. Don't think to yourself, oh, unless I do this, then I will survive. Because what happens is when you fiddle the system, when you try and earn money through haram means, then your income through halal means is taken away from you. The amount that you are destined to earn is written for you. If it is in your destiny to earn £1 million, you will earn £1 million. And it is up to you whether you're going to earn that £1 million through haram or through halal means. But it is in your destiny. And if you earn it through haram means, then the blessings are taken away and you won't earn it through halal means. And our nafs, we kind of make excuses. We make excuses to ourselves that we can't manage unless we do this. And you get people saying nowadays, oh, in business you have to fiddle. If you don't fiddle, you can't survive. If I don't do this fiddle, I can't survive. Allahu Akbar. Do we believe that the pious predecessors, they didn't survive? At the beginning we mentioned the incidents of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullah, that he made sure that his income was from halal means, and if he had any doubt, he donated that money in sadaqah. Allahu Akbar. He survived. And all the other pious predecessors from our past, they all survived. They didn't die of hunger. They survived, and the family survived. And they lived a life. They had clothes, they had food. But sometimes our wants and our needs are so much that we'll do all sorts of things. And our nafs will say to us that, look, if you want that nice car, if you want that nice house, if you want this, you're going to have to do this fiddle, you're going to have to do that fiddle, you're going to have to do this. And nowadays, viewers of Madani Channel, it is unfortunate in the times that we live that to earn money through haram means, and it's probably forever, it's always been like this. But today we can all see this, that to earn haram is so easy. It is so easy to earn haram. People will phone you up and say, oh, did you have an accident last year in your car? And did you hurt your neck? Did you hurt your back? And if you answer this question right, then we can get £3,000 for you, £4,000 for you. And you've not had a neck pain, you've not had a back pain. And they try to convince you, these people are convincing you on the phone, well, surely you must have had a little bit of pain, surely. And you think, well, yeah, maybe I did, maybe I did. Right? And so, okay, well, you've got accident damages and they'll put claims in for you and this one. These are haram means, yes, if you have had an accident, yes, if you have a genuine injury, and yes, if the Shariat allows you to claim that money, then yes, that's okay. But making up these stories, lying to achieve a little bit of money. You know, viewers of Madani Channel, I remember there was somebody that I knew that he proudly claimed that he'd fiddled the system. He fiddled the system to such an extent that he'd fiddled the system to £1 million. £1 million he'd fiddled the system. And I remember he actually showed me a cheque for £333,000. He said, this is the first installment of this fiddle. Many years later, I met him. And he said to me that whilst that money was in my house, I never had any peace. Yes, I had a big bank balance. But until all that money went, I had never had any peace in my house. We were constantly arguing, the children were constantly arguing, we were constantly having all sorts of problems. The wife was ill, the children was ill, all of these problems happened. And until that money went, then I never had any blessings or barakat in my house. So yes, he had the money. Yes, he fiddled the system. Yes, it appears that he got away with it. But what happened to his household? And if you ask him today, he said, I regret it. He was a millionaire for a moment, but he regrets it now because of what happened to his house. Money isn't everything, viewers of Madani Channel. The amount of money that you earn isn't everything. If you have not got barakat inside your house, if you've not got blessings inside your house, viewers of Madani Channel, we have seen people sitting on footpaths, crying. And when you ask them why they are crying, they are millionaires. They've got loads and loads of shops and properties. Why are you crying? Because I've lost my children. They've left the fold of Islam. And when you sit down with them, you realize that the income has been from haram means. And then it's too late. It's too late. Viewers of Madani Channel, whilst we have a chance, reflect and think about our income and make sure that our income is from halal sources. It is narrated in Hayul Ilakayat, page 223 and 224, a book that's published by Dawat Islami and is available on our website www.dawatislami.net. It is stated here, it is mentioned that Sayyidina Ibrahim bin Adam Rahmatullahi Ta'ala has stated, I once travelled to a city named Tarsus in search of a halal sustenance. When I reached there, a man approached me and said, I need a person who can guard and look after my grape orchard. He had an orchard where they were growing grapes. Are you ready to look after my orchard on a wage? I replied in the affirmative. I went with that person and began to work in his orchard with great dedication and hard work. One day, the owner of the orchard, along with some of his friends, came to the orchard and asked me to bring him some of the best quality sweet grapes. Having heard this, I brought him a huge quantity of grapes. And when the owner ate a grape, it was sour. And he said to me, O person who's been guarding my orchard, very sorry to say that you have been working here for such a long time, but you still have not been able to recognize the difference between sweet and sour grapes. Though, you know, you've been here all this time, can you not recognize the difference between sweet and sour grapes? And Sayyidina Ibrahim bin Adam said, well, I've never eaten a grape here. And the owner of the orchard thought to himself that because he's been here every day, probably eating a few grapes here, a few grapes here, and through that he will have recognized. But he said, I've never eaten a grape here. I've never, because my job here is not to eat grapes. You've employed me to look after this orchard. I'm not allowed to eat any of these grapes. Hearing this, this person, the owner of the orchard, thought it was very, very strange. And he said to his friends, he said, this person that is guarding my orchard, that's looking after my orchard, seems to be as pious as Ibrahim bin Adam, rahmatullahi ta'ala. And the owner didn't realize that it was Ibrahim bin Adam, rahmatullahi, that was actually looking after his orchard. Viewers of Madani Channel, again, there's great Madani pearls there for us. That eating halal, honesty, and abstinence of Sayyidina Ibrahim bin Adam was truly commendable. And if only we had done that, he could have ate the grapes and nobody would have known. Allah would have known. Allah would have known. The owner of the orchard would never have known. The owner of the orchard, he actually assumed that he'd been eating them, but the owner of the orchard never said to him that, look, you can eat as many grapes as you want. When they did the initial contract, when they gave him the initial job, they never said to him, you can eat as many grapes as you want. They were just told that your job is to look after the orchard. And he did that. And he could have ate the grapes. But Allah was watching. Allah was watching. So viewers of Madani Channel, sometimes we may think to ourselves that, look, I'm earning this income. Nobody knows about it. My family doesn't realize that my income is haram. My wife doesn't realize my income is haram. My father doesn't realize my income is haram. My children don't realize my income is haram. But Allah is watching. Allah is knowing. Allah is seeing. Allah is hearing. Allah knows everything that you are doing, viewers of Madani Channel. Viewers of Madani Channel, Amir Sunnah has written a beautiful book for us. 50 Madani Pearls of Earning Halal Sustenance. It's available in the English language. And I advise everybody to download this booklet. It's only it's a 50 Madani pills, but it's probably about 20 pages, 18, 20, 25 pages. Please download this booklet and read it, and inshallah, it'll give you some Madani pills of how we should generate a halal sustenance in our household. But viewers of Madani Channel, as we are getting away from the blessed era of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are becoming more and more ignorant. And this temporary attraction of wealth and riches has blinded us. In the past, people used to refrain from haram and impermissible food immensely. Now we have become so careless that we consume halal deliberately. And we're proud of it. We're proud of the fact that we say that, yeah, well, we earned this money, and we've earned it through this haram means, through that haram means, and everybody knows it's haram. They even know it's haram, but they're not hiding it. They're not ashamed of it. In fact, they're proud of it. You know, many, many years ago, if people committed any sin, they would commit it in private. Any sin, whether it was drinking alcohol, whether it was fornication, whether it was gambling, whatever it was, they would do it in private. They would not do it in front of people. Now people don't care. Now people don't care and commit these sins openly. And it reminds me of the hadith of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he says, if you have lost your haya, you have lost your shame, do whatever you want. Is that not what's happening today? That not only have we lost our haya, that we do whatever we want, but we're proud of doing it. We openly admit it. We admit that we're doing it. We admit that we've earned this money from haram. We admit to people, yes, I got this through an insurance fraud, I did this credit card fraud, I did this fraud, I did that fraud, I put that claim in and I got this money, and we're proud of it. We tell people, and we phone people up and tell them how to earn this money. Astaghfirullah. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, an incident I want to relate to you, personal incident. A couple of years ago, somebody approached me, and they said to me that, brother, in 2 weeks' time, there's going to be an accident, a car accident. There's going to be a car accident in 2 weeks' time. Do you want to sit in the car? And I thought, what's he on about? There's going to be an accident, and he wants me to sit in the car. Number one, how does he know there's going to be an accident? And two, why would I want to sit in a car that there's an accident in? And I forgot it. I said, what are you talking about? Leave me alone. And he went away. 2 weeks later, I heard there was an accident. 2 cars, head-on collision. Head-on collision, these 2 cars. And it reminded me, I thought, I'm sure he mentioned, how is it possible that he knew that there was going to be an accident? What had happened, viewers of Madani Channel, unfortunately, was that these brothers had bought 2 very, very cheap cars, insured them. People sat in the car, they had head-on collisions. The insurance paid out for the cost of the cars, but everybody claimed neck aches or back aches, £3,500, £5,000, £6,000. And what had happened is, they'd all chipped in, paid money, so that the cost of the insurance would be covered, and that they could all claim this money. So it was a planned haram act, planned way of fiddling the system. So they all walked away with £5,000, £6,000, and they were happy. Them same people are not going to be happy on the Day of Judgment. Them same people are not going to be happy when they're in their dark and lonely graves. And them same people, when they use that money to feed their families are not going to be happy. Allahu Akbar. The beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that a time will come upon my people when a man will not care about how he has earned his wealth, whether that wealth is a haram or halal. Allahu Akbar. Has that time not come, viewers of Madani Channel? Commenting on the above this, a great thinker of the Ummah, Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala, has stated that his people will become careless about the religion in the last era. They will badly get stuck in their financial worries. They will only care about accumulating and multiplying wealth without distinguishing between halal and haram fearlessly, as is common these days. It is stated in another hadith, viewers of Madani Channel, that a time will come upon people when the religion of a religious person will not remain safe except for the person who runs from one mountain to the other and from one cave to the other for protecting his religion. At that time, we will not be able to earn a living without displeasing Allah Azza wa Jal. And when faced with this situation, man will suffer destructiveness at the hands of his own wife and children. If there are no wife and children, he will suffer destructiveness at the hands of his parents. And if there are no parents, he will suffer destruction at the hands of his relatives and neighbors. Their beloved companions humbly asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how will this happen? And he replied, they will make him feel ashamed of his little livelihood. At that time, he will go to the places of destruction. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, on the Day of Judgment, we may fall into disgrace because of the relatives for whom we remain busy earning sustenance day and night. It is indeed, viewers of Madani, it is our responsibility to fulfill the rights of our mother, father, wife, children, and everybody. But if they keep on taunting us because we're not earning enough to satisfy their needs. That you're not earning enough money, you're not earning enough money. We want to have this flat screen TV, we want to have this, we want to have that car, we want to have this house, we want these things. And as a result of that, you are going towards haram so that you can please them. On the day of judgment, you will face destruction. Allahu Akbar. Sayyidina Faqih Abdullah Samarkandi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala stated, it is narrated that amongst a man's relatives, the closest relatives are his wife and his children. On the day of judgment, listen to this views of Madani Channel. On the day of judgment, the wife and children of a man will humbly say in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, O our Lord, make this person give us our right. Because he never gives us the Islamic education and he would provide us with haram food and we were unaware of it. The person would then be beaten so severely for earning haram that his flesh would come off his bones. Then he would be brought to the scale where angels would bring his good deeds equivalent to a mountain. Then one of his family members would come forward and say, I am short of virtuous deeds, and he will take some of them. Then another person from his family will come forward and say, you made me consume interest money, and he will also take some of his good deeds. In this way, his family members will take all of his good deeds. Then he would say, turning his face towards his wife and children in despair, alas, now I have the burden of those sins and acts of cruelty which I committed for you. The angels will say, he is the unfortunate person whose family has taken his virtuous deeds, and he has entered hell because of them. Viewers of Madani Channel, you know, our families, sometimes we have demands. Sometimes our families have these demands where they want these things. And again, I remember visiting somebody and he was crying because his spouse, his wife, wanted a 7-seater car and she demanded that it's got to be a new car from the showroom. It can't be an old one. He said, brother, I can't afford it. I'm having to work 7 days a week. I'm having to do this. I'm having to do that. And I was trying to invite him to the ijtimas, I was trying to invite him to the masjid, but he was saying, look, I can't do it. And my wife put so much pressure on me. And maybe that brother, maybe he, you know, as a result of all of this pressure that he's getting from the home, maybe he turns to haram means just to satisfy that. And we see in society today that nowadays people turn to haram means just to satisfy the needs of their family. On the day of judgment, that family won't be with you. That family is not going to say, no, you looked after us, we'll go into the hellfire, don't worry, you go into paradise, we'll go into the hellfire for you. You worked day and night for us, you did all this for us. No, on that day, your good deeds will be taken away from you. On that day, everything will be taken away from you, and they will say that you committed these sins for us, and they will take all your good deeds away from you. Then will we be left? Think about it on that day, viewers of Madani Channel. And today we need to ponder, we need to think about ourselves, that where are we going with the wealth that we have, with the money that we have, and how are we earning it? I know we always talk about halal and a haram food, but do we ever think and ponder over halal and a haram income? Where our money is coming from? And why we are earning this money? We still have to fulfill our rights as a Muslim. And if you do not fulfill your rights, and in that waqia that I just mentioned before, providing an Islamic education for your family, if you're busy earning money day and night, you've made a koti, you've made a big house, you've made all of them things that you wish to do, but you've not provided that education for your children, you've not provided that source of education for your children, then what is the benefit of that? You may leave your children £1 million, but when you're in that dark and lonely grave, it's going to be no benefit to you. But if you leave your children with the love of the Rasul in their hearts, if you leave your children with the love of the Quran and the love of the Ahlul Bayt in their hearts, then inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, you will benefit it when you enter that dark and lonely grave. The Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I swear by the one under whose power the life of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is. Undoubtedly, when a man puts a haram morsel into his stomach, his 40 days' deeds are not accepted, and a fire is better for the person who has consumed haram and riba to nourish his flesh. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah said that when the deceased is placed on the takht, either bear that when they passed away and raised, his soul moves with convulsive motion and sits on the takht and then cries out, O my family, do not let the world play with you as it has played with me. I accumulated halal and non-halal mal, wealth and possessions, and then left these possessions for others. Its benefit is for them and its harm is for me. Therefore learn a lesson from whatever I have faced. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the person who buys a cloth with 10 dirhams, listen to this views of Madani Channel, the person who buys a cloth with 10 dirhams, and if 1 dirham out of that is haram, Allah Azza wa Jal will not accept any of his salahs until any portion of that cloth remains in his use. In another hadith, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, an angel of Allah Azza wa Jal every day and night proclaims on the roof of Baitul Maqdis, whoever consumes haram, Allah Azza wa Jal will neither accept any of his fard nor any of his nafil. Viewers of Madani Channel, if you're fortunate that you read your namaz 5 times a day with Jamaat, you do nafil ibadat, you do tahajjud, you do chash, ishraq, awabin, you do all your nafil ibadat, but your income is haram. Your income is haram. Then we are told here, then that will not be accepted. All of them efforts will not be accepted. So you can see from this, viewers of Madani Channel, that all of our actions, whatever we do, because ultimately we're feeding this body. For me to come here to the studio, I needed the strength, the energy to be able to come here. And that has ultimately come from the food that I've ate. And so, the crux of everything, the root of all of our energies is the food that we take. Otherwise, I cannot do anything. Physically, I can't do anything because I will not have the strength to do anything. And if that food is haram, or if the source of that food is haram, that the income that is generated from is haram, then everything I'm doing is being wasted. Everything I'm doing is being wasted. It's like having a tree, but the roots are dead. The roots are dead, and as soon as it's going to be no benefit. Without strong roots, this tree will not be able to bear any fruit. That tree may look good. It may look good, but it has no sustenance to it. Allahu Akbar. Sayyidina Abdul Rahman bin Ali Jawzi, rahmatullahi ta'ala, stated, haram food is such a fire which melts the fat of contemplation, eliminates the pleasure of zikr, and burns the clothes of true intentions. It is a haram which breeds the blindness of insight. Therefore, accumulate the halal wealth and spend it moderately. Protect yourself from haram and protect your family members from haram too. Do not have the company of the people consuming haram and keep refraining from eating their food. And do not have the company of the person who has income from haram source. If you are true to your abstinence, then neither guide anybody towards haram, as when he will consume it, you will also be accountable for it. Nor help anybody in acquiring haram, because a helper is also involved in committing the deed. Remember, it is the halal food that makes deeds acceptable, and concealing poverty and weeping in seclusion play an important role in the acceptance of deeds and have a very significant part in earning an halal sustenance. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, ponder over where you are earning your money. Allahu Akbar. The beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned a person who makes a long journey with untidy hair and dusty body. He invokes, "O Lord, O Rabb," with his hands raised towards the sky. But his food is haram, his drink is haram, his clothing is haram, and his nourishment is haram. How can his du'as be accepted? Allama Maulana Nakhi Ali Khan, rahmatullahi ta'ala, the respected father of Sayyidi Ala Hazrat rahmatullahi ta'ala, said that one should refrain from haram in eating, drinking, dressing and earning, as du'as of the people is mostly rejected. You eat haram and commit haram deeds. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, you know, we do dua and then we wonder why our du'as are not accepted. And people complain that why the du'as are not accepted. Have you ever looked at yourself? Have you ever looked at yourself and thought maybe it's a result of my action that my du'as are not accepted? It is narrated that once Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam passed by a place and saw that a person was busy making heartfelt dua in tears by raising his hands towards the sky. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam kept on seeing him. And then he humbly asked in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, "O my Rahim, O my Kareem, Ya Rabbana, why are you not answering the dua of this bondsman of yours?" Allah Azza wa Jal sent a revelation to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and he said, "O Musa alayhi salam, I will not answer this person's du'as, even if he cries to death and raises his hand to the extent that they touch the sky." Allahu Akbar. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam humbly asked, "My Mawla, Ya Rab, what is the reason behind it?" And Allah Azza wa Jal responded, "He eats haram and wears haram, and there is haram wealth in his home." Viewers of Madani Channel, why are our du'as not accepted? Why are our du'as accepted? You know, I think, viewers of Madani Channel, if we are honest with ourselves, and we have to be honest with ourselves, the majority of problems that we are facing, what happens is nowadays we try to blame everybody. We try to blame, oh, it's the economy, it's the society, it's this, it's this. If you want to find out the source of the majority of the problems that we are facing, go and look in the mirror. Go and look in the mirror and you will see the source of the problems that we are facing. It is us, viewers of Madani Channel. It is our actions, it is our deeds, our haram income, our not being obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal, not reading our namaz 5 times a day, not fasting during the month of Ramadan. Allahu Akbar. It is generally observed that parents request to make dua for the children in a sad and sympathizing manner. And they say to people, Azur, make dua for my children that they become salah offering. And yet we are not offering salah. Ya Allah, make dua for my children that they start reciting the Quran, yet we are not reciting the Quran. Ya Allah, make dua that my children goes in the straight path, he stays in the straight path. He refrains from watching films and dramas, and we are watching films and dramas. Viewers of Madani Channel, we have to be the role model for our parents, for our children. If our children see us, fiddling the system, if they see us earning haram income, if they see us doing these acts, that as a result of them haram income is coming into the household, then what message are you sending to your children? What message are you sending to your children? They will see, well, it's okay then, isn't it? It's okay, my father did it, so it must be okay. There's nothing wrong with it, because if there was something wrong with it, surely my father would not have done it. Surely my mother would not have done it. Surely my elder brother would not have done it. Surely my uncle would not have done it. Surely at least if my uncle was doing something wrong, my father would have told me that it's wrong. But my father has never said anything against it. My father's keeping quiet. It must be okay. This is the message that we're giving to our children, viewers of Madani Channel. And as a result of that, on the day of judgment, we will be disgraced. On the day of judgment, all of our good deeds will be taken away from us. And all that we'll be left with is the sins that we have. And then we'll be dragged into the hellfire. Viewers of Madani Channel, reflect, think to yourself, whilst you have this opportunity, before it's too late, before you enter that dark and lonely grave, and what will happen is on that day, it'll be too late. That money's not going to go with you. That wealth is distributed. I've heard stories in households that where a person is breathing his last and they're already trying to find the deeds of the house so that they can find out whose name it is and we can get it distributed. They're already calculating how much they can get. They're already looking at how much the inheritance that they can get. And in households we see that children are looking to the parents that when are they going to pass away so that they can have the inheritance. Because this is the mindset that we've given to our children. That money is everything, it doesn't matter where you get it from. As long as you get that money, that's all that matters. As long as you get that money, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And then we hear our sisters that put demands on their brothers, that I want this, I want this, I want this car, I want this house, I want my children to have these facilities, I want my children to go to these tuition centers. I don't care where the money comes from. Your job to get the money as long as my children have this. And so the pressure comes on the husband to earn from a haram means. So viewers of Madani Channel, as a family, sit down, reflect and think to yourself, what are we doing? What are we doing? As a family, are we not effectively digging a whole grave and filling it with sins? We're filling up this burden of sins that we're going to carry on the day of judgment. Be it my fault, be it your fault, be whoever's fault, but as a family, sit down and reflect and think to yourself, that what am I doing? Is it right? Is my income halal? Is my food halal? Am I teaching my children the right messages for them? Today you are feeding your children from haram. Tomorrow when you are old, if you are fortunate, and I say if you are fortunate, because nowadays very few children will look after your parents. But if your children look after you, they may start feeding you from haram as well. Viewers of Madani Channel, please reflect on this and think about this. And viewers of Madani Channel, that's what Dawah Islam is here for. Dawah Islam is here for us to reflect, to think. And that's why we have these weekly gatherings. And the whole mission statement of Dawah Islam is that I must strive to rectify myself and rectify the people of the whole world, inshaAllah. And I myself, I'm striving, and inshallah, until the day I pass away, I will be trying to rectify myself. Nobody can claim to be rectified, but we can all try to continue rectify ourselves. And viewers of Madani Channel, one of the ways of trying to rectify yourself is attaching yourself to the environment of Dawah Islami, watching these programs on Madani Channel. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal, if I've said anything wrong, may Allah Azza wa Jal forgive me. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that first and foremost, Allah Azza wa Jal give me the ability to think about and act upon what I have said. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that all the people that are watching this program today think and reflect on the income that they have in their homes, the food that they have in their homes, the sustenance that they have in their homes, and the message that we're passing out to our families and our children. Ameen bi jahin nabi al-amin. Sallu ala al-habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Mubarak for you is my prayer. Mubarak for you is my prayer. May you keep ascending success